here? Oh no, she's down there.
Hi. Yeah, yes, our guest is in the green room right now, backstage, ready to help us understand the current state of student loan debt and credit in general. So, Stacy, good morning. Welcome to Real Estate Now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. What a beautiful day. It's just been sunny, shiny, and hot out there. So, well, let's jump right into it. Speaking of hot, our mortgage rates. Whoops. So speaking of hotter mortgage rates, and they are doing their thing, staying right there below 3%, and
nice.
that's a good thing. They're holding steady, right? And when I say right below 3%, I mean right below 3%, right? So hold on one second. I got to do one quick thing. And
you know your email popping up all day?
Yeah, I got emails popping up all day. Okay, I'm gonna just unshare that. There we go.
So, I mean, under 3%. So that's that's great, right? So what are you hearing out there? Like, I think there's reports coming out tomorrow. Anything you want to share before next week of what you think rates are going to do?
Rates are going up, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. Here is the huge number that dropped today was the jobs number. And with the health of the jobs number, which was just short of 1 million new jobs created, it's going to continue to spur economic growth. And I don't want to call it a comeback yet, right? But we're definitely on the road to recovery. And when we have jobs, we have health in the economy, and that will then lead to the concerns that have been kicking around for the last 2 months at a high level through the Fed, which is inflation, right? So we got to curb that. We got to keep things in check, and there's always a financial balance there. And we've been very blessed for the last almost 2 years now, for right there around 3, or through 2020 below 3 interest rates. So I've been saying this almost like a broken record, but I mean, the time is now. If you want something at 3 or below 3, you best pull the trigger, in my opinion, in the next 2 to 3 months. Because by the time summer is gone, I don't think we're in that same rate environment. I think you will see it go up, which, quite frankly, we were talking a little bit before the show started. Yeah. I'm excited to see rates go up a little bit. The velocity of the purchase market right now is definitely being fueled by the interest rate environment, and to slow that down and to get back into more moderate 3 to 5% appreciation is going to only, in my opinion, be achieved through higher interest rates. So I'm looking forward to it. That's me. I know a lot of people don't want to hear the mortgage guy saying, "Oh, rates are going up," and I'm looking forward to it. But we work with buyers every day, Stacy and I, and we're still seeing multiple 10, 15 offers per house. And that means there's a lot of buyer demand out there. And I would love to see things slow down a little bit so we can get some more inventory and keep the ship sailing at a steady pace. So that's my 2 cents. Where do you think they're going next week, Stacy?
I mean, I do think in the long run they're going to go up. I just think they're going to stay down through the summer, and I don't think it's a bad thing as they creep up. I don't think they will creep up enough to make a huge difference in our inventory issue that we're having. So we'll see. I think we're going to have an inventory problem for a long time.
Yeah, I finally read an article that was, in my opinion, in the mainstream media in Forbes. And the whole article was about the inventory issue that we have and how it came about through the lack of building between 2008 and 2017. And I'm like, finally, this is the true issue, the common denominator amongst all markets that is plaguing America right now is inventory. So write your Congress people and senators and city officials and say, build. Now is the time to build. We need more inventory. The population of America is continuing to grow. So anyway,
It's way more complicated than that, right? It just is. It's hard to build right now because it's hard to get materials and supplies, and we could just chat forever. But we do have a guest in the green room.
Okay.
That we should bring in.
Let's bring Amanda in. She's waving. She's got her wave on. What's up, Amanda?
What's up, guys?
That was like perfect.
Happy Thursday.
I can't even do it.
Thank you. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, it's
Friday
another beautiful day.
It is.
So we are circling back with you to talk about student debt, credit, and what we've basically gone through in this last year. So give us a nutshell of where the current state of the union with regard to student debt is.
So student debt is in a really strange place where it's just really it's just stuff we've never seen before. I don't think anybody else has ever seen this before. It kind of feels like, I don't think it feels like it. I think what it's really happening is the rules have just been made up kind of as we're going along. Because just like the rest of the planet, nothing like this has ever happened before. So people being on 0% interest for a year, people having their monthly payments count towards, some type of forgiveness programs if they are on those, even if they're not currently making their monthly payment because of the COVID forbearance and, things like that are just people coming out of school not knowing what their payments are supposed to be or if they're supposed to make a payment. It's wild. It's like the Wild West out there.
So let's talk about the people that have graduated and have been paying on their debt. That bucket of student loans, the federal stuff just got put in deferment. Is that correct?
Yes. So originally when COVID hit and the first CARES Act came out, originally what it was you had to apply in order to have your loans put onto this special COVID forbearance. And then very quickly, the student loan servicers became, as you can imagine, extremely overwhelmed with all of these incoming applications, and they couldn't keep up with them. So what they ended up doing was every single person that has federal student loans, except for people that have, it's just one small exception, people that have loans that are called FFEL loans. Some of those people didn't qualify, but and they don't even give those out anymore, so it's rare. Every other person with federal student loan debt automatically went into the COVID forbearance, whether they wanted to or not. Some people don't want to be in it, and they have to opt out, but everybody else, Zoom, automatic debit withdrawal if they were signed up and enrolled in that stopped. And there are no billing statements being generated, nothing like that. And it's been that way for about a year now in terms of everybody just automatically being on it without doing it themselves.
But they could have opted back in if they wanted to.
Yes, if they opt out, they can opt back in.
Keith, how do you look at that? Have you seen that with lending? Like somebody's
the unintended consequences were not properly vetted out when it first happened in I think it was right around June, July last year, right? And it caused a big ruckus because from the mortgage standpoint, if we see on your credit report that you have student debt in deferment, guess what? We typically have to hit you with 1% of the outstanding balance, regardless if you're in deferment or not.
Absolutely.
Right? And so people went from pre-qualified to in this gray area, like, oh no, we just got COVID deferred. Now my income-based payment went from $20 a month to now I have an extra $200 payment on my debt to income ratio and I no longer qualify. It was that kind of situation. So we had to work through that last summer. And now to your point, Amanda, it's been very, very strenuous for the folks in deferment because they need to prove what type of payment they're set up on. And some servicers aren't giving them that information. So we can't use their income-based or whatever payment program. We have to hit them with the default deferment. And it's an unintended consequence. I don't think the government really worked through when they just threw it out there.
Absolutely. And things were happening so quickly, it's hard to place the blame somewhere because normally I would place the blame there, but you kind of almost felt bad for, oh my gosh, with so many people with student loans, and you could tell they were trying to do the right thing, but it really did mess up a lot of people trying to get into homes, especially during a time when that's what everybody's doing and the interest rates and everything. But not the homes weren't just the issue. The issue was, not being very clear on having that COVID forbearance and what all the other aspects of that were going to be potentially negative towards the borrower. When that ended, were they going to have capitalized interest put onto them? Were any of those payments going to count towards their public service forgiveness if they worked for, a public service entity or, a public school teacher or things like that? And at the beginning, I was one of those whistleblowers going, don't do it, opt out, because they hadn't made those statements yet saying, we're not going to capitalize the interest. Until they made those statements, we were being very, very cautious about the COVID forbearance. But they've come out now and made sure that everything's good so far on that side.
So what are they doing with that? What is the workout and repayment structure going forward?
So most people won't have capitalized interest when the COVID forbearance ends. If you were going to have capitalized interest prior to that date in March of 2020, then you'll have that capitalized interest because it was something that you were already going to have in March of last year. But most people won't have any capitalized interest. So, but it's been very beneficial for people that wanted to pay down their balances because they've been able to just chunk money all of the principal because 0% interest. They can send everything over to principal right now. As soon as the interest is paid off that they had accumulated through March of last year, everything that they've been paying has just been going towards principal. So it's been great for those people to get those balances shaved down.
What that triggered in my head was like student debt, 12-month, same as cash. Right?
Exactly.
It's a scary thought. That's kind of a
right.
Thought. Yeah.
So have they come out and announced when all the forbearance stuff ends? Is there a term date on this?
They have, but they've been very conservative with the date. I haven't seen anything that says this is the date 100%. Everything says as of right now, September 30th is the ending date of the forbearance, but it could change. Please keep. So I have a feeling they're going to actually keep it at September. Because I think the servicers aren't happy. I think there's a lot of entities that make money off of this that aren't happy. I do think that they'll keep it with September, but they are not coming down on it just specifically. Even on the servicer websites, some of the websites are saying you're going to have a payment due in October, but they're not generating the bills yet. And other websites are saying, even on the student aid website, it says, as of right now, there is a date, but keep checking back to see if it's been moved. So
correct me if I'm wrong, the servicers are going to need to know that date because they got to send out the bill, 28 or 30 days before the next payment date?
It's a 21-day bill generation.
Okay.
So they did this actually last year. They changed their minds within a couple weeks before the forbearance was supposed to end. And they did get the bills were about ready to generate, and they smushed it within that time period. So wow. I would not be surprised if they wait until the last minute to make that decision, just because they do only need that 21-day turnaround time.
I mean, that's the talk right now, right? Like, when does that end? When does rent end? Like, at some point, all of this that had to happen is going to end, and we're going to go through another period of just change. But we got to, as Keith said, the economy's opening back up, so we got to get back to a normalized state. And at some point, it's going to include paying back rent, or paying rent and paying back college. Yeah,
people are going to have to go back to work and start paying their bills again. And
so if you have a client, Amanda, that's working with you that happens to be still impacted, right, by COVID after September 30th, do you help them navigate, that maybe they still don't have a job, or what that looks like post? Or is that not something you do? And
We do, if it's, so we only help people that come to us from an actual loan officer that we work with, so we know it's somebody that's trying to purchase a home, because that's what we specialize in. We're not here to charge people for consolidation, things like that. That's not the kind of company that we are. But if somebody, was with us or is with us because that was their end goal, and something happens in September, we're here to advise them as much as we possibly can. And most of those clients, we're not charging anything. We're just here to advise them until they get to that point. They don't owe us anything because we haven't done any work for them, just besides advising them. So yeah, we have a lot of those clients right now that are still kind of in that limbo spot, that are out of work or living with parents because they had COVID and they're not sure what to do, if they should put more money in here. And yeah, we advise them on, here are all your options, and you pick the best one for you, depending on what goals you're trying to achieve by the time you get into the home.
In the current state of the whole student loan debt, I'm like, does it make sense to consolidate if you have student debt? I mean, because we're talking about numbers that are going to be
situations. It does.
Okay.
So somebody right now is looking at purchasing a home, maybe in the fall, or sooner than that. I would say at this point, being that it's already June, it's insane to me. I know.
How did we get to June already?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Especially staring at four walls for me. I'm like, how did this go quickly?
Yep.
But if you have somebody that is trying to purchase a home and they're looking at all their options and they want to get ahead of it instead of waiting till last minute, there are a lot of people that we take a look and we go, to purchase a home, you really need to be in this repayment plan to get your payment down as low as possible. And instead of waiting until then to consolidate and get into the correct repayment plan to get your payment as low as possible, if you did that now, then not only could you consolidate and get your payment as low as possible, but then you're in COVID forbearance. You don't have to actually even make that payment until you get closer to that home purchase, and then go ahead and pull the COVID forbearance so that you have a mortgage verification letter from the servicer saying this is your payment. Right. And now they can go ahead and get into the home without there being that lag time in between, which is normally, 4 to 8 weeks while they're waiting for the consolidation or payment plan to get approved to head over to, underwriting and everything. For their
that's about the general consolidation time frame is about
48 weeks if they're not in default. Okay. I'd add an extra 4 weeks if they are in default and they don't have to go through any type of rehabilitation program with their collections agency. And even those are helping right now. I mean, people that are in rehabilitation that are working out payments with their collections agencies, it's weird. You're on the phone with the collections agency. Okay, how about this payment? You're going back and forth, and then you solidify the payment, and then it's okay. Well, it'll be $0 until October.
Wow.
Unless they have FFEL loans. So it's just a strange time right now. It's a really good time to get stuff done on those student loans and take advantage of this right now while they can.
That's great awesome advice. Yeah, to do it now. So why don't you just give a quick, I guess we should have started with this, so I apologize, but just a quick background of what you do. Like Keith and I are like, yeah, we talked to Amanda. Yeah. You guys met her a year ago.
Viewers know Amanda. She's a repeat guest.
Right. You all remember from last June, right? So yeah, maybe just give us a brief, so you don't get inundated with phone calls of just random people not buying houses.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. So we do debt advising and restructuring if needed, but primarily anybody who is going to purchase a home and they're having any issues with credit. It's not, we don't call ourselves credit repair because we're not here to blanket dispute things and say this isn't mine. That's not what we do. We sit there and we look through every single item on somebody's credit report and talk to them about how to understand how credit works, the difference between positive and negative credit. A lot of times they don't even need us. There's a lot of things on their end they can do on their own that get them to their goal to get into a home. And then other times they need our professional expertise. It's teamwork. There's nothing we do they can't do on their own. We just do it better and quicker. So that's what we do on the credit side. And then with the student loans, when we're looking at those credit reports and we're seeing student loan debt on there that we're seeing could affect their debt to income ratio when they go to purchase a home, or if somebody doesn't have any credit issues, but in the same manner, their loan officer says, hey, you can't qualify for a home because we have to take the 1%, like you mentioned earlier, Keith, which for a home buyer out there just means there's different guidelines and different regulations depending on what type of home loan you go for. And if you have student loans, it might be different than when you bought your home 10 years ago. You say, oh, I have student loans. I never had a problem. Times have changed. You might have a problem now, and that's what we do. And we're the only company in the nation that understand the mortgage guidelines and the student loan guidelines to be able to sit down and go, okay, here's your goal, and here's what type of home loan you're going for. Here's what needs to happen on your student loan side to make those match so that you can have the debt to income ratio to get into the home. And we advise them of that, and then they have the option to do it on their own, or if they want us to help them with the paperwork, we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
So I have a real life scenario that I just wanted to put you in the hot seat on. I was talking to a client earlier this week, and we were talking about doing conventional financing, and he's like, well, I've got about $7,000 of federal student debt that was charged off, and so I can't go FHA. He's not the only one out there. So tell us about the federal debt, and once it's charged off, does it stick around? What's the long-term impact of having these federal student loans linger on your credit report?
Anything federal, it's almost like a tax lien. The government wants their money. So if it's federal, even though on the credit report, it reads almost like a normal installment line of debt, like a mortgage, once it becomes negative, you're in trouble. So that's why it's pulling up on like a CAVERS report, is that's federal debt. So it can be on your credit report indefinitely if you don't pay it. However, there are ways to get those student loans out of that charge-off status, out of that collection status. There are ways to even get the collections removed from the credit report, the collection history from the student loans federally removed from the credit report so that it shows that they were never even in collections, which is fantastic for a lot of people that have gone through that process to know that they're even making that offer to them. But if people think, okay, I'm going to let these just go, and in 7 years they're going to disappear from the credit report.
Right.
It's federal debt. The government wants their money. They're going to keep them on the credit report. They're going to keep them on the CAVERS report. And that's the other problem is some people go, oh, you know what? I think I had some student loans that were in collections, but they're not showing on my Credit Karma, or they're not showing on my, we all love Credit Karma.
That one hurts my head.
I know.
Yep.
They're not showing on my FACO score, and then they go to a lender and they're almost in the process of purchasing a home, and the lender pulls a CAVERS report, and now you have any federal defaulted loans on there, and boom, they don't get the home, and they thought they could squeak by because it for some reason was no longer showing on their credit report. You have to get rid of those federal collections that are that student loan debt if you want to purchase a home, especially if you want to purchase a home with any type of federal backing, because it's too difficult to do it or to expect that debt to go away, because it's just not going to.
So PSA, we do not use Credit Karma.
I'm not a personal fan of Credit Karma for most of our clients because the scoring formula is not consistent with, we work with a lot of loan officers, and we don't like people calling in and going, my loan officer said that my score was this, but Credit Karma tells me it's 100 points higher, and I'm ready to go. And then they go back and get another hard inquiry. So, but for the purpose of knowing if something brand new hit your report, I think it's pretty harmless as long as people understand how credit works and understand the difference between, like I like to call FICO and FACO. As long as they understand that, then I let it go.
Well, FACO is Vantage. It's a scoring system. It's the Vantage scoring system. Unfortunately, the mortgage industry doesn't use it. So nope. It's literally comparing an apple to an orange, right?
Exactly.
Mortgage companies are using FICO score. Credit Karma is using Vantage score. And oranges are not apples. Apples are not oranges. So you can't say they're the same. They're
right.
not.
Right. Well, a lot of people say, well, okay, I understand. So my score is always just going to be higher on Credit Karma, and I'll just go ahead and keep an eye on that to know how much. That's not the case. My score is 100 points lower on Credit Karma. This is what I do for a living. I thought I was in the 800s. Why is it? Sure enough, Credit Karma had me almost 100 points lower than my actual score.
Whoa.
And my husband was the opposite. It's just the way that their scoring formula works is just bonkers.
Just different.
What you're talking about before, I think it's important for everyone to understand that federal debt it never goes away regardless of which company you're pulling credit from. It's going to be there. So you got to manage it.
You should share that story. You should, Amanda, share that story that you provided for MEC on the video learning of the Social Security benefit that was garnished.
Oh my gosh, I filmed that a while ago. I tell so many stories. I'm trying to remember what person it was.
Yeah, it was a gal that was having her Social Security garnished for an unpaid federal student loan debt.
Absolutely. They're taking the Social Security checks now. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. And the sad thing is we actually had one of these recently. It was a Social Security check from an elderly woman. It wasn't even her student loan. It was a Parent Plus loan that she thought she was just a co-signer on. She didn't even know that it was in her name. I don't want to say anything bad about the financial aid offices because it opens up a whole can of worms, but I would say that's probably at least 50% of our clients that have Parent Plus loans say the exact same thing. They had no idea that the Parent Plus loan was in their name. They thought they were just co-signing. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, your Social Security checks are being taken. Your tax refund is being taken. They're garnishing everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Anything that's federal, they can garnish.
When people talk about, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but here we go. Maybe we will. When people talk about possibly having student loan debt go away by the government, are they talking about federal debt, student loans too, or only a different kind, or only federal debt? What are they talking about?
They think they're talking about all federal debt. They're really only talking about federal student loan debt, private student loan debt. It's never going to happen. Most private student loan debt doesn't even have any options for COVID forbearance. It's just really difficult for the government to have any mandates on something that's privately funded. That's why FFEL loans, which are technically a federal student loan debt because the government backed it, but it was taken out originally by a private bank. That's why those aren't in COVID forbearance. Most of them aren't in COVID forbearance right now because they just don't have that pull to do that with private banks. So most people, when they say my student loans are going to be, forgiven, we haven't, and this isn't political, but we get these calls all the time, especially the first half of the year was, without a new president, are my loans forgiven? Are my loans forgiven? Which is so sad to me because I think people do get wrapped up in what they hear on the news, what they see on social media, and they really think their loans are going to be forgiven overnight. And it's not the case, but it's also, it is federal is what they are being led to believe.
Got it. Okay.
And the way those get forgiven is by being in a public service capacity. Is that correct?
If they're talking about long-term forgiveness, like where you have to pay monthly for so many years, then yes, you have two different ones. One's just the William D. Ford Act, which is being under any of the income-driven or payment plans under the William D. Ford Act, and there's a bunch of them. It depends which one they're under. There's the ones that you guys are very familiar, like the IBR, income base. There's RAPYE, PAYE, ICR, different ones depending on what type of loans they have and what they qualify.
More alphabet soup, Stacy.
I know that I don't even know. Like this is alphabet soup. It's all new to me.
There's a lot of letters.
Yeah, love it.
But the if you're under one of those payment plans and you also apply for the public service forgiveness, which means you work for not just a public service company like under the government, like a public school teacher or a police officer or a firefighter, but also if you work for like a 501c3 nonprofit entity, something like that, then with those type of forgiveness plans, it takes you from the normal 20 to 25 year which is the other ones, down to 10 years. Now, in saying that, you have to split that up into on-time, monthly, in full payments. So if you skip a couple months, it's still not 10 years or it's still not 20 years. You have to drag that out. So the only type of overnight forgiveness, which is what people are expecting, is if you're total permanently disabled, or if you are able to have some type of discharge due to your school lying to you, or it's like a borrower defense type of.
Yep, I'm back.
Oh,
yeah, Rose, and I'm muted. I had student loans, but I also had help from my folks. But I also worked at Baskin Robbins for spending.
I would have spent all my money at Baskin Robbins.
It was my favorite place ever to work. Everybody was always so freaking happy.
We should start selling ice cream with our mortgages.
We should. No matter how bad your day is, people come in and they want their double scoop and there's smiles everywhere. It's great. I don't know how I ended up in this business. Am I scaring anybody? Baskin Robbins, last will drop out, and here I am. Keith, what about you? You grew up on a farm, and here you are.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm. I went to the University of Washington. I'm a theater major, and now I do mortgage finance for the last 23 years.
Oh,
so,
great.
That's awesome.
And so I was fortunate enough. Well, I took the different path. I didn't have any student debt. I worked 35 hours a week on top of going to school. So I worked weekends and evenings and paid for it that way. So there's an alternative.
You walked 5 miles to school uphill both ways.
No, I had to drive the 520 bridge, which was worse.
But yeah, that's an option too. Work your way through school.
Work your way through school. There's more than one way to do it.
So we put up, Amanda, we put up your information. What is the best way for people to reach out? Is it through email? Is it
the best way? So we don't even have our phone number posted on our website because we are referral only. We had to do that because we're the only company in the nation that offers this resource. So most of the time you have to go through, like you guys, a loan officer in order to get our information. But there is a lot of information on our website, and people can contact us through a web form on our website and let us know who sent them or who they talked to get our information. And our email addresses are also on the website. We do have high security settings, just letting everybody know. So if you send us an email and we don't respond, it probably didn't come to us. Go ahead and just fill out a web form and let us know, and we'll reach out to you.
There you go.
Good to know.
And let me know. I'd be more than happy to connect you guys. Whether you're other mortgage professionals out there, clients, real estate agents that need help and get their clients ready to buy a house, let me know. Be more than happy to connect you. Amanda and I have worked together a handful of times already, and more to come. More to come. So, yay! I will be connecting you and the gentleman that's got the charged off student debt.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. We'll get them all fixed up.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Amanda, thank you again so much for your time and your expertise, and super appreciate you being on the show today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Looking forward to next time.
Right on, indeed. Well, we'll catch you next time, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
Right on. There you have it. Well, join us next Thursday. We're over on our time, so we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place, Thursday, 10 a.m.